Hello everyone, welcome to Khurram Qureshi's podcast. Today I have a very special guest and very close friend, Christopher Potts from Norseman Construction and Development. And I invited him and Ajax in my podcast to go over and discuss about himself, his dreams and ambitions that he's trying to bring into the Canadian market and construction sector. Chris, welcome to my podcast.
Hey, Khurram, how you doing? Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. I'm excited to be on your show. So,
thank you. So let's just start with the name. Like, it's Kris Potts, Christopher Potts, and there's a Christopher NV Potts. So what's the deal there?
All right. So it's funny. You guys were just talking about this a few minutes ago. My name is Christopher Norman Viking Potts, and the Viking, yes, it's a real thing. My mom wanted to keep the Norse heritage. She's being first-generation Canadian. She's immigrated over from Norway when she was 7 years old, and she wanted to maintain that. And I've been managed to keep that in all of my kids' names. So you've got William Robert Viking, you've got Hudson Wolf Viking, and you've got Thorold Christopher Viking, and all of them have that in their name now going forward.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And I always hear you supported local charities and do the promotion and stuff, and all your staff dressed like Vikings too. And outdoor activity is such a wonderful thing. But thank you very much for coming in the podcast. So tell me a little bit about your background and the family, and a little bit of your personal history, please.
Sure. I started in construction really early in life. Actually, was around 14 years old. I started to work with a gentleman by the name of Mark Nazar, who is a legend in the renovation industry. He's been around for a very long time. And he got me, my dad needed something for me to do in the summer, so I ended up working with him at my dad's compound. I actually really liked it, and I took an interest in construction really early. And during the course of the next few years, till I got a bit older, it actually led me into the direction of becoming a commercial diver. And I went away to school in Scotland to Fort William, and I became a commercial diver. And I spent the next 5 years traveling the world and working for different subsea companies. I ended up in the Persian Gulf working with Aramco. I ended up with Al Ghasabi. I ended up with different companies in the UK and traveling most of Asia for about 5 years with some pretty significant contracts, actually. Ended up coming back in 2004, and you're sort of near the end of the year, and realized that my diving career, due to some personal circumstances, was at an end. And I looked to how I was going to sustain myself. I focused on construction again, being something that I really understood and knew. And I got my first job with my best friend Ryan Miller, who was working for a company called Crestford. And Crestford was a big development company back in the, it's gone now, but it was run by a man by the name of Dan Casey. Fantastic guy. And he gave me my first job. And I changed a lock in a sales center. It was my first job. And I'll never forget it. I went in and it was down in Windermere, and it was 2005. And I just opened my company, and I had a truck, and my buddy Ryan was trying to get me work. And I went down and changed this lock, and it was full of women. And back then, I did look good. Anyway, and the lock got changed. And I think because I came home as this, kind of this, all I did was work out on these boats. I think they were breaking things to actually have me come back and fix. And I continuously ended up getting called back to the sales center day after day. Something was broken or something needed to get fixed. And that's actually what started my career. Norseman was founded that year. And by the end of that year, through fixing deficiencies and fixing problems, I ended up in high-rise buildings with a staff of 30 people by the end of that year. And Norseman took off. And I ended up running Norseman for the next 5 years in high-rise, focusing on deficiencies. I built a CRM that was called the Cost Recruitment System with a friend of mine called Lawrence Smith. And that actually changed a lot of the way that deficiencies were captured. At the time, everything was paper. We had brought in a program that was built specifically to track deficiencies and to itemize the cost of those deficiencies, which at the time was all done with Palm Pilots. So it was like, you remember what those are, right?
I know.
No handheld, handheld phones back then, and we were able to track deficiencies and then time them against the cost of the completion of the deficiency, which gave the developers like Charles Mady, I worked with him, and Tridel, we worked with Crestford, we worked with Sheldon Rosens. Like, these are some of the top guys in that period of time building, condos. They were using our system and our company to be able to track that, which was I think my real entry into how I could see technology changing construction. And then, from the 2008 collapse, Norseman changed its focus into heavily into renovations and into the low-rise sector, because obviously the shift from high-rise was changing because of the collapse in the States. But our need for technology didn't end, and we kept looking for new ways to run our business, to increase efficiency in construction and in renovations and in development, which has led me to where we are today, which is where I really am focusing on how innovation can help industrialize the construction sector. And I believe that we're globally in this position right now to look at how that's going to change potentially the world, with housing being at the forefront of the globe's view on how where are people going to live. I mean, those are the biggest necessities. You need to have shelter, you need to have food, and you need to have the ability to survive. And a place to live is primary because it gives you that ability. And I think that where we're at now is with the declining trades, with the declining ability to manufacture in speed and efficiency and cost, we have to look at those technologies as a way of making that happen. And I think that's where I come into play, and I think that's where a lot of the groups that I'm aligning myself with right now, they come into play. And I think that's the future.
That's great. I think you're doing a fantastic job, and I must give you the credit. But when I see the construction sector in Canada hasn't changed in about 100 years. And in the same time, if you see, it hasn't changed in the Western world. But if you see the construction in China, they're going insane. Very fast construction, very stable construction. And you cannot tell me when they're doing the construction, not only for housing, but high-rise bridges and all that in mountainous area, that's art of engineering.
But there's a difference. You have to understand, places like China have no restrictions. They don't have trade unions that need to have jobs performed. There's a lot of different barriers that don't need to be crossed, or structure of government that's in place to enforce safety. And I've just came back from Kenya, where I told you where in 2 years they've built an entire motorway. The Chinese are there in force. But they don't have any restrictions in their ability to build. They're working with precast. They're working, with trade groups that have no unions to represent their people. And I can't comment on how that allows for human rights issues or for any workers', safety. But what I can say is that it expedites speed and efficiency without those barriers. Now, in Canada and in the United States and in North American or European countries, those trade unions, which have been beneficial in changing our environment, have led to our ability to be able to perform work. But they've also potentially hindered us in our ability to look at alternate ways of working, because the traditional methodology of construction is maintained by the unions, who are there to support the developers and in coordination with the government's ability to aid in the direction in which the construction industry focuses, because they provide jobs and they provide stability. They provide the ability for the construction sector to maintain some semblance of organization. Otherwise, it would be chaos, and you'd be going back to the beginning of the Industrial Revolution with no real governance on anybody's workers' ability to be looked after. But I think that with the adaptation of the technology, with groups like unions, with provincial and municipal level governments and their coordination, we're going to be able to make a transition that will allow us, yes, slower, but safer, more organized and structured to get to a point where we're going to be able to hit those key factors of good, fast, cheap, but with safety in mind.
Safety in mind. Safety is the number one thing, and that's why Canada has a very good safety record, and I get it. But I also see by working with the different trades in past 7 years, that the amount of protocol, red tapes, and obligations that we put in the construction industry by the government, local government, federal government laws, labor laws, and also union laws are causing the hindrance and slow down. These needs to change, in my opinion. What do you think that you want to advise to the labor laws in the government sector as well as in the union sector? What needs to change and also attract the young people to join the trades?
Those are two big questions. So let's tackle the first one. So you've asked about the speed and efficiency in which development can occur, and I think one of the biggest issues is it's not maybe the speed in which development can occur, because that's a big question, and it involves multiple aspects of coordination from both municipal government to the developer, to the zoning of properties and how that they're looked at individually from a planning perspective. One of the things that's really important to look at is it's not just, it's the costs. So development fees have to come down. And I know Doug Ford is looking at how that's going to happen. We also have to look at the speed in which the developments are analyzed, which means increase of staff that have the ability and the understanding to look at those development drawings and how they can be processed quicker and more efficiently. Because we have thousands of buildings that are in process of being looked at. It just takes so long to get those permits. You're in for a year minimum just to do a renovation.
Correct.
I mean, that's something that, we've just sort of adapted into our system, but it doesn't need to be, which is why I think you're starting to see changes in pre-approved drawings. So pre-approved laneway houses, pre-approved sort of sixplexes and fourplexes. And you're seeing major changes in zoning now, which are going to allow for that level of industrialization. And that's a key word, to increase the speed in which that area of sector, right now rental units, which is the primary focus to getting people into houses, will change. And you're going to see that right now. So they are making changes to do that. It's just we as builders and we as developers have to be able to adapt to that. Now, as far as the second part of your question, which was seeing young people get involved into trades, that's something that we're focusing on. I think it's being focused across the country in different provinces, and how their approach is the same sort of target objective. We, for instance, Norseman Construction's partnered with Printera, which is a 3D printing company, and Build a Dream, which is a not-for-profit based out of Windsor that helps women get into the workforce. And I think it's the bringing of that technology, which is going to now attract different younger generation because you're going to be able to sort of now splice in that need to learn and advance yourself, but yet not have to go back to that arduous way of constructing buildings. You start looking at prefab modification. You're looking at assemble in factory settings. You're looking at modular components that are prefabricated in those factory settings to be able to be assembled on site. There's old technology that's now resurfacing, like SIP panels, which is a structurally insulated panel, which is essentially a Lego wall system that can build houses quickly and efficiently. You're not going to end up with guys, framers having to sit on site for hundreds of hours in the sun and baking themselves, and a lot of those younger generations that don't want to do that. You're going to be able to look at construction more technically and use that technology to advance the speed of and efficiency of that end goal and then end product, which I think will attract a lot of people, because you're using that advancement to create speed, efficiency at a lower cost, which is going to attract a lot of people because that's something interesting. I mean, 3D printed. Norseman just purchased the first mobile 3D printer in Canada. It's called the MaxiPrinter, and it's from Construction 3D. It's pretty impressive, but it is a giant robot. I mean, it can fit through 36-inch doors. It has rotating arms. It has its own tank track like on it. And it can go anywhere, basically, as long as you've got power and as long as you can feed the hopper for the product, which means you can print out buildings, you know, in days. And this skill level required, for instance, that, you know, the course that we've just put on, that's going to be going through York University, we can talk about that a little bit later, allows people to be able to learn how to build a wall system in combination with 3D printing and with these SIP panels in 8 weeks. You're learning how to do, you know, health and safety. You're learning blueprint reading. You're learning how to operate and use this equipment, and then how to build a wall system. So you're fully trained in 8 weeks and ready to go. That's amazing. And then that course curriculum will also be applied directly to a York University accreditation. So now you've got potential for guys that are out of work or people that are looking to upskill, masons or, you know, block layers or concrete workers or even framers. They can now upskill into this new technology. They're not going to fall behind, and they're not going to be left at the wayside, and they're going to continuously have jobs. And that's sort of the goal, and that's why, you know, the province of Ontario and Doug Ford, you know, Mr. Puccin from Labor, these guys have spent time and effort looking at how that can happen. And, you know, they are looking at ways that like Norseman and Printera and Build a Dream are working to start upskilling people, to really, you know, to take advantage of what this may turn into something that, you know, could really potentially boom. And if they do, I'm sure they're going to look to sponsor that with us.
That's wonderful to know. I think government is trying to do the job, but they need a consultant and the advisors like yourself to bring the real solution in the real world based on like, you know, our efficiency infrastructure and like, you know, safety standards. And we do have a higher standard. We get it. But I also noticed, like, you know, Canada is missing the boat compared to the rest of the world, like, you know, in the construction, like, you know, yes, maybe the labor laws are like not very stricted in China, but if you see the Dubai constructions and Middle Eastern construction is very solid, and it's run by mainly, like, you know, European contractors and advisor and consultants. So Canada has a chance to prove something to the Western world and the other world, part of the world, like we can not only be able to, like, you know, build efficiently, effectively, and through using the technology. We are in the technology hub in North America. After San Francisco, Toronto is the leading technological hub. We need to bring the technology sector, and the robotics is the way to go. AI is the way to go. And the way I'm anticipating is, like, you know, advice through this podcast to you, and correct me if I'm wrong, is like, you know, to attract the youth, we need to tell them to get into the programs like 8 weeks program and do it. You're not going to step into the construction site all the time or like fully, like, you know, exposed, but it will be partially. Because when the robots are involved, you're involved in the cubicle and then on the site. So it's going to be kind of hybrid situation. I also have an advice, if you can be able to work. So let's say you have one robot on the site. How about 2 or 3 robots on the site, and people can be able to manage them remotely?
One of the fundamental things that you just mentioned was, you know, why European countries or even Saudi companies or Middle Eastern countries have the ability to advance their construction. And we touched it a little bit earlier in what we were talking about, but it's bringing in that level of technology, like the MaxiPrinter, like that mobile printer that I mentioned that we now have in Canada. Well, they have 20 of these. There's a company called Construction 3D that sold us this product. They have 20 of these MaxiPrinters that are working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Wow. Now, this is the thing that makes this, you know, an amazing tool. Is it can continue to work as long as your 3-man team is rotating in and out. It doesn't need to stop, and it can keep going. And depending on your climate and where you live, this product can keep going all night long and all day long, which allows you now to take a building or a structure and pump out 150 or 200 of these in a month. And that means roof on, windows in, hundreds of them being completed in a month. Now, we have a podcast that we're starting. I don't have a name for this thing yet, but this podcast is going to allow me to travel the world and look for different levels of technology that are available in the construction environment and how they can be applied in real time to a real building. And what we're going to do is we're going to go and meet with those companies. We're going to investigate that technology, and then we're going to see the value of that technology, how it can be applied to a real structure. And we've got one lined up right now. It's in Etobicoke. It will be a 6-story structure, 50 units, and we're going to be building it hopefully sometime next spring in 2026. On our first 50 episodes, we'll be traveling the world and looking at that technology or technologies. And that doesn't just mean robotics, it means AI, it means robotics obviously, it means different infrastructure procedural abilities and different products that are going to change our construction industry. And we're going to try and utilize as many of those as possible on the show while we investigate them in a real life building, while we continuously update our audience on what's happening. So we're going to be traveling to places like Dubai. We're going to be looking at places like, China. We're going to be visiting places in Japan that have those new technologies that will help industrialize our working environment. And we're going to showcase all of those over the next year. And that's something that I think is going to give not just the common individual or young person who's looking at what is available to them, but it's also going to give the world a really good adaptation to combine multiple levels of technology into one common place. And then we're going to budget it. And we're going to figure out the cost to hit those target markets of good, fast, cheap, and not just choosing 2, but getting all 3.
Very good, very good. And I think this is a great idea, and I'd love to be the part of that YouTube channel, and part of the planning team, production team. Love to travel with you, and it's a whole lot. I think the world is doing a good job. Canada has good genes. Canada has good ground infrastructure, but we need to ease up our rules and regulation to increase our adaptability. This adaptability is needed while we have good sustainable system and we have good protocol and all that. We need to show the world that we can be able to do the build faster and all that. And our government is now finally realizing, with the trade war going on between US and Canada, we now had a wake-up call. And now Prime Minister Carney is doing a lot of things to build a pipeline and train system in order to increase. But house building is also the sector that we need to look into, and the government is talking a lot. And with the consultants and the companies like you, the technology is going to be finally heard in the Chamber of Politics, and rules will be changed for the companies.
But here's the problem. It's not just government, it's the investors. The Canadian economy needs to change to allow for investors to feel comfortable to put money into housing. Canada right now is at a precipice of its ability to perform as a G7 country. And that's huge for companies that are looking to invest. Right now, I'll give you an example. There's technology that exists that can pump out 3,600 wall systems in a month. It's sitting. It's already built. It's sitting in Windsor, Ontario right now with a company called Romat, which is one of the leading companies in robotics that had been in the car industry as a boutique builder for major car companies across the world. They have also been one of the most significant robotic builders for companies like Boxable, for companies like Z Modular. They're sitting there with a piece of equipment right now. I tried to buy it. I had government assistance that was willing to help me, but I couldn't get an investor. There's also nowhere to put this product. No one's building that level of construction. There's no financial incentives for a major builder to build. Look at what's happened to our properties. You got to remember this is a big deal. Condo developers bought property in 2021, 22. We had COVID. It's really screwed up our economy. Now you have properties that were purchased as development land, that were rezoned, that were bought by major investors, like huge players, and their properties that were worth 20 million are now worth 6. So how are they going to, what is their incentive to build more condos, to build more environment when they can't sell it? Our condo markets take a tank dive. People can't even sell their products right now. And you're expecting these guys who are our powerhouses, our main investors, to then reinvest in housing with what? With what money? With what stability? With what future for them? I mean, that's something we all have to think about. Like, these people are the developers, the infrastructure managers who are looking at how our country is going to be formed. These guys have to make money too, and they're not just doing this for fun. Unless our government wants to step up and, similar to China, and put workforces together, this isn't going to change. we have to work together with guys who have already invested millions of dollars and have them and give them incentives to want to build, so that they are, looking at machinery. Mattamy Homes just announced, they're putting millions of dollars into creating a new system, a new factory that's going to allow houses to be built 50% faster and 30% cheaper. Well, that's existing. There's a piece of machinery right now. It's sitting in Windsor. It's sitting with Romat. I was going to be one of the guys that tried to get it off the ground. It's there. Government knows it's there, but nobody is willing to take the plunge to enact it because there's no houses to be built. That's why we're focusing now on sixplexes. We're focusing now on garden suites. We're focusing now on the common and the average person who wants to invest to increase density to provide housing, because those big developers aren't there to start to move the wheel. There's no incentives for them to do it. And I think that's the smart approach for right now. And I think using the technology that we've got, that will soon, we're going to be launching our sixplexes and our laneway homes and our garden suites through our company, Norseman Construction. Using this technology to decrease the cost, to allow a person like yourself to put a garden suite in your backyard, which will provide a rental income for you, but also provide a residence for somebody who doesn't have a home. Increasing density by putting fourplexes and sixplexes, and changing the zoning bylaws to allow them to be placed into different areas, and they've pre-approved those areas. If you want to look them up, you can see them on the city website where they are, or there's websites that are available out there. Marty Laneway Suites is one of them. I'm going to give you a plug, Marty. If you check out his website, he also has available properties that he showcases where those properties can be purchased or where they are, so that you as a person could put a laneway suite in, or change your property to a fourplex or a sixplex. The development fees have been put on hold for 5 years for over 4 residential suites plus your 1 garden suite. Anything over that, those development fees, which are could be pretty hefty, anywhere from $50,000 to $70,000, they're also put on hold for a number of years to increase that incentive. And then you take this technology that we've got, whether it be 3D printers, SIP panels, or modular wall systems, you bring that into play, increase your efficiency of your production, increase your build, decrease your build time, increase the product of what you're putting onto that property that you've got. You now have a cost-effective solution that is mass potentially coordinated with the population who are looking for incentives for rental, but also looking for business perspectives. And now you're increasing unit production without having to work with the major developers. Now, eventually, I hope that this will change the economy and showcase that we've got more developers, more big box builders that are coordinating with our provincial level government, because there was a talk at one point where there was land potentially to be provided and infrastructure to be provided, and then builders to come in and contribute as a collaboration, which would incentivize those bigger builders to get involved and to lower the cost of the construction as a cooperative. Now that's a focus as well that we could get into. There's a plethora of ideas, there's a plethora of collaborations that can happen, and I think it's just going to take time, and I think it's going to take coordination between builders, between developers, between your average investor and the population, who are all going to have to contribute in multiple ways to increase the density and efficiency and then cost to get to where we want to be by 2030, I think is the goal. Which is a pretty lofty goal. I think it's 2 million. Don't quote me. Yeah. I don't know the exact number, but to hit that target objective, that's a hefty objective. But I think it's doable if everybody comes together, and all of these processes that are happening can function coordinated effectively. And that's really going to be up to guys like Doug Ford, who are really pushing and really see this as a valuable objective. to get to.
Yes, and I think like the cat is out of the box kind of situation with the two elections happen just within the past 7 months in 2025, and also with the U.S. situation too. We need to believe in ourselves, Canadians. We need to believe in our own system and our own technology, and we can facilitate that. We have been producing good talent, but they end up going to the New York, for the financial sector, or going to the technology sector in San Francisco. Why? What happened to Canada? If we provide the environment and good pay to our talent and everything, there's a whole lot of opportunity that we can be able to build the legacy for the next 100 years, not only for Canadians, but for the world too. And this is where we need to advise and work in the coordination with the government sector. The problem is the government was not very much in line to listen to the private sector, but now they are, and they're putting the time and efforts to taking the advice. But is the leadership, Kris, which I see is missing. And I think you are fitting a very good component in the conjunction of all those things, that you're providing the leadership in building the strong, better, faster, and effective housing solution for Canadian market. And I see you, and I praise you. You're doing a wonderful job, and the government needs to take you as a lead advisor to lead this sector of affordable housing to the next level, because you not only know the construction side of it, but also the complexities of the construction and the costing of it. And you build the system about 15 years ago, in 2008. When the technology was weaker and AI wasn't there and all that. So imagine what you can be able to do it now. So I'm willing to help from my side and my capacity on the DigiPix, and definitely will connect you to the folks that I know, and it's a coordinated effect. We need to think beyond the profit line as leaders of the community. We need to think as the legacy and that we're going to leave behind for the future generation. Because our ancestors, when they work and build things for Canada, they just didn't end up doing it only for their lifetime. They did it for the long term for Canada and the country, and that's what we need to do. Canada can provide the leadership, and it is time that we step up our game in the construction.
Okay, so I don't know if I would call myself a leader in this field, but what I am is I am a thought provoker. I am I am here, I feel, to get knowledge of what is available out and show how it can be utilized. And some guys tell me that that's being one of the first guys out the door, but I'm not big enough as a company to get hit hard enough by experimenting with these new products to go under. Our company, Norseman Construction, we focus heavily on renovations and working with our clients, and we have a really good reputation for doing that. So outside of this box, when I focus on technology and innovation, I'm not building big enough, I don't feel, to get hit hard enough if something goes wrong financially by utilizing and experimenting with these technologies that I'm going to research. And by doing that, it's going to give a lot of people knowledge on what to do and what not to do. And there's already been a lot of this already done by companies that we're going to research and we're going to work with. Assembly Corp's one of them. They're building 6-story buildings right now out of mass timber using wall systems, and they've built 6 buildings. And I'm sure after I've spoken to them that they've lost money on a couple of them. And that learning curve is going to help the future of other builders looking to build 6-story structures. To maximize efficiency. Now I know building for cost is competitive, but it's also we're in a state now where everybody needs to contribute. There's 2 million units that need to be made. That's enough. I don't know anybody that's going to be able to accomplish that. So the combination, and I think the camaraderie that can come out of different developers, different builders, different companies to focus together to push this forward, there's enough work and there's enough money to be made through the construction industry in just the dedication of trying to figure out how to do this collaboratively to last for 20 years. And I don't think anybody should be threatened by other companies that are getting into this missing middle field that is important, I feel, for the development of this industrialization of construction, which is the true focus of where we need to be globally to achieve the end goal of housing. And you're not going to, we've been spoiled. I mean, let's face it. In Canada, you get to choose everything that you want. You get to choose what your house looks like. You get to choose the style. You get to choose the architect who's going to collaboratively put things together in a very, architectural and design orientated way. And then all of your purchases of all of your interior products, well, that gives you your flair for living, but that's going to cost you money. All those choices cost money. The less choices you have, the less the cost of the building, because the more mass produced that product can become, right? And so that's what's really going to allow for the change in construction. It's your mindset, it's everybody's mindset into what I'm getting for the value of the dollar that I'm going to spend. And as long as the value of the dollar allows you to get to a position where you're okay with it, and our mindsets are, hey, this is better than being homeless, or this is better than being in a hotel room, or this is better than living on my parents' couch till I'm 30 years old, that I can afford a place to live, that I now have my own independence. That's the drive. That should provoke every single person that is looking to move this forward, and every single dad who has to pay for their kid who's still living at their house, or has to buy their kid a house with every bit of money that they just worked for, to help progress this and move this industrialization mantra forward. And I think that's what's going to be the drive, right? You've got all of these collaborating cause and effects leading to this position where we are at right now. You've got increasing or decreasing value of our dollar. You've got tariffs. You've got, the wars with the U.S. that are, having to deal with our trade war, looking now at a Canadian economy and growing that Canadian economy. Now's the time to shine. Now is where Canadians should be building for Canadians. We should be looking at how each segment of move that we do forward associates our own internal companies to strengthen our ability. And now's the time to do it. Like, mass timber, for instance, wall systems, SIP panels, modular builds, factories, and the acceptance of the decrease of our decision in what we want to the increase of productivity, and which will then, decrease the value of that product, but allow somebody to be able to afford it because of the efficiencies that we have to go into it. And once that collaborative, cause and effect starts to collide, we end up with good, fast, cheap, and we get all of them together, and then we have a place to live. Now that sounds very complicated. Do you want me to break that down even closer, or what do you want me to do with that?
No, it will sound great. You really explain it to us. What are the advices to put the cost down? Because I did talk to some politician in my podcast too in the past, and they're saying they wanted to build fast, but the problem is the people who own the laws, except municipal or regional lands, are not coming into the market very often and very quickly. They just don't want to release the land for development. So
Infrastructure,
but infrastructure roads are there, system is there, municipalities.
No, they're not.
They're not.
That's the thing, and that's one of the biggest costs on developers is the infrastructure. It's bringing gas, hydro, electricity, water to those sites, and some of those sites are remote. I mean, look at that's why there's such intensifications into cities, is because infrastructure exists. Once you go outside of the cities, and once you start traveling outside, Canada is vast. I mean, look at our country.
Exactly.
It's massive, and there's no building outside of the structures, because getting that infrastructure from point A to point B increases your cost of development, increases your ability to sell that product at a price where value can be attained by your common Canadian right now.
Why is that though? Why? Literally, I'm in Ajax, and if you take the Westney Road or Salem Road, just past Taunton, it's empty. It's practically vacant. You driving into the farm fields.
You got to think of complexity of, and don't just look at infrastructure as being, let's run some sewer lines. It's also the ability to manage those sewers. It's where's that water going to go? What is the capacity of the existing water structure, and what is its value? Its top value to be able to handle that level of liter of water. And if you've got more water, you're now going to need to change the infrastructure of that processing plant. And who pays for that processing plant, and where does that money come from? And do we have enough money to be able to put that processing plant in place? that's a lot of work and money to create environments, that we may not have the ability to do at the moment. And that's why you end up with those, those areas of land that aren't developed, because it's not just running pipes. It's processing of gas. Where's that coming from? How's that going to get to those areas? It's telecoms. It's the gas. It's hydro. It's water. It's services of water. It's capacity. Developments look at all of those areas. Plus, then it looks at roadways. It looks at serviceability of that area, and then it's the infrastructure of the ability to service that place. Buses. Transit. The ability for those areas just to be supported. So small businesses, it's literally planning.
Yeah, exactly.
And a lot of effort has to go into that, and it's a collaboration between those developers, the municipal government, and the planning division of that government, and then provincially, whether that's something that's viable for everybody to be able to function with. Technology can make a play in decreasing the value of the cost to create those products. And again, there's more technology than we've mentioned today. But it's still not going to change the ability to develop those properties. It's just going to increase the speed, it's going to decrease the cost, and it's going to increase the value or the product based on its based on the viability of that product in which it produces and whether it's better. For instance, I'll keep going back to 3D printing just because I'm heavily involved in it. The product that produces is based on testing data through York University, through Windsor University with Printera. They have direct data to showcase that product is actually better than regular concrete. And that's why you're going to start to see a surge in that type of product in construction, but it's not going to change the ability to still produce the developments that are required in mass to be able to fill the requirements for the population of dwellings that are going to be needed. That's a mouthful.
That's a mouthful of things, and that's great. And I'm so happy you're at least talking about it, and you're utilizing technology in the construction sector. So Kris, you were telling me earlier, you went to Kenya and worked with the Kenyan government for some technological advising. So tell our audiences.
Yeah, so I just recently came back from Kenya, where I actually went over with the Sovereign Bank. And we met with NACHU, which is the National Association of Construction Housing Union. And I met with the chair, Francis, and CEO, Mary. And what I did was I actually was there presenting different technologies that I currently represent. And we got to bring some really unique products. There is a deep earth product that is AI driven, that can find water within 9 feet, using AI topography and satellite imagery to locate water. They've been able to locate water even in places like the Sahara Desert and the Gobi Desert. And I mean, it comes out like a giant geyser. It's absolutely crazy. We also were there with representing another product, which is an EPS product, a polystyrene wall system that has a concrete infused casement that you can build houses. You and I, for instance, could literally build a house in 4 days with roof on, and at a cost of anywhere between $7,000 to $15,000, 1,500 square foot home. And those products are available, and they have patents in the U.S. And there are actually structures in the U.S. in Florida. I've seen them, and these things lasted through the last hurricane. I was also there bringing 3D printing and working in conjunction with Construction 3D and Printera, who is my partner here in Canada. And I was also showcasing other technologies, including AI, and how they can help with project management and delivery of mass housing in Kenya. And we were looking at 37,000 units. I got invited there as a guest to showcase, and I spoke to the entire national housing union that they have, and I was able to present that technology and work with their groups, and we're currently working with their groups right now, and how those technologies can be brought to Kenya to expedite their growing housing market, which it's actually really fun. I got to go on sites. I got to witness how construction currently is being made by the locals, which is actually with raw stone. Like you can literally blocks of stone that are being cut into squares, and then they're building buildings, and they're building 4 or 5 stories with these massive stones. I mean, even their foundation is just stones. Like it's kind of wild. And if you bring like technology like 3D printing, or you bring these EPS wall systems, you're talking thousands of units, because again, restrictions aren't as heavy, but the safety requirements that are brought on by the technology supersede those safety requirements, because they already have them built into the technology and how they're being used. Right. So it's pretty wild. I mean, it was really interesting and really fun, and I really appreciated that that I was invited there to take part in that. And I was one of the leading consultants there to do that. And yeah, it was really a great learning experience. And this could potentially go across Africa. And I was approached by different governments as well after that to look at how we could potentially bring them to their environments. We're looking at places like right now, like potentially Guyana and including Trinidad. And I have a group that's working with me called X Capital Global, fantastic group of guys, and they're looking at sponsoring, our endeavors in other countries with these technologies. So it's a fantastic opportunity, and there's a lot ahead, for us as construction technologists and as adventurers. And so I'm going to use that terminology, adventurers into this field. It's just because it's so new, but yet some of the technology is so old, but we get to resurge that.
Exactly. And I think this is the fundamental shift that we are doing it in this decade. And a lot of technology, grown in 40 years. Internet came in, then like .com bubble happened, and a lot of things like mobile explosion happened, social media explosion happened, and all that. Now we're seeing the explosion of AI. And that's revolutionizing a whole lot of tech. The way it's finding the water is amazing. Couldn't be able to do that just even 5 years ago.
No, they can. They could have. It's just now what they're able to do is it's for certainty. They've had this technology for 20 years, but now they're just building on it with AI. It allows for less length of time and less cost. By utilizing that AI component, it speeds up the research and the analytics based on the topography of commonalities across the board for that particular product. Yes. But AI is also changing the way that building platforms are even being looked at. Procore, Buildertrend, just to name a couple. I mean, they're focusing heavily on how AI can be interchanged into the program for even just project management, even quoting. Like, to quote I'm just going to go back to my roots here with renovations. To quote a renovation job, a large one properly can take you 14, 15 hours.
Correct.
It's a lot of work.
It is.
And luckily, Norseman, I'm just using my company as reference, we have a lot of dedicated individuals specifically aligned to their jobs. Hence, efficiencies in our building of our company, which allows for us to be able to get those out quickly. But it's still that one person or 2 people or 3 people that are working on those quotes, that's 14, 15 hours of their time. That now can be cut down because there are products out there where AI is now allowing you, based on those commonalities, to really focus on the time reduction. And you can get faster quotes out using the same structure that you had, just adapting it to faster ability and more commonalities, which then gives our clients better pricing faster. And then, combination with then those robotics technologies or those new infrastructure technologies or those construction technology, which will reduce the cost of that actual construction. Right. I'm working as a consultant on a company called Raven right now. Raven is going to be a new product which is going to actually capture the cost of a contractor's purchase ability and then be able to link it directly to that bucket on that budget. So if you think about it, what makes a lot of construction companies go under? It's their inability to cost control their products. It's hard. Most contractors, including myself, you come from the school of, unfortunately, hard knocks. You learn it in the field. You learn it. You don't have that business background. You're not going to school for business. You don't learn that type of stuff. And if you're a contractor and you're in your field, you're trying to balance your books. You're trying to do your quotes. You're trying to get out there. You're trying to get your jobs. You're trying to work on your job. you're trying to manage your employees, you're trying to do everything at once and provide great service to your client. I mean, these guys are killing themselves. It's hard, right? But if you take AI now and you infuse that into that, just that level of business, you now potentially can cost control that product. Now that guy who's working his butt off every day, he will know whether his ship is starting to tilt or it's going under at that given moment. So think about how that's a major change for AI and how it can just adapt on one piece of one small aspect of construction. Now you go bigger with that on major developments, and they can start to course correct themselves instantaneously. They're now not going to go under, and they're not going to have to borrow more money at higher levels of cost, which is going to be able to right their ship. And that's just one application of AI, right? I mean, think about the future of like how that potentially even get into more complicated things. Think about a 3D printer. If it can geomap itself and through geolocates can self-pilot a 3D printer using AI to coordinate itself, it can build itself 24 hours a day, a house eventually.
Got it, got it.
As long as it's programmed the right way and the geo mapping is done effectively, which now leads into new jobs. I mean, technology is going to change the way we work. We have to adapt with it, which means we have to train people to get to those positions to adapt with it. And technology is going to change fast. AI is going to allow for that. But it's about regulating, and I think a lot of people have said this, regulating AI's capabilities to harness the ability for the future to not overrun us, but allow us to work in a symbiotic relationship between it and control it in a way that allows the future not to swallow us, but to allow us to work with it. And then we're going to see some great things.
Exactly. And I think this is a very exciting time that we're living in, and we're seeing like, my age and your age, we have seen like, analog to digital transformation, and now everything is happening through the AI and like, those modules. With this technology, I do have the recommendation. Because 3D printer, yes, it can be able to mobilize and do it like 24 hours operation, but it required like 3 people, like observation, supervision, material supply, and consistency purpose to oversee. And then yes, they work in the shifts and all that, but there is still like retrofitting of like plumbing, electrical, windows, and along the way. For that one, it goes beyond XYZ axis. It goes in a different mode of actions, and where like human needs to involve into like putting things together. What I'm recommending is like humanoid robots working along with AI and construction robots. This way, any heavy lifting and anything that needs transportation or fitting between the building, they can be able to do it. A, it can be 24 hours. B, it doesn't have to apply the labor laws, just like we can be able to apply to the human, and also reduce the cost too.
But we have to, look, I'm not going to say that can't happen, but I don't think it should happen. I mean, humans, we need jobs, and jobs are paramount to our ability to perform. Now there's technology out there, there's exoskeletons, which are going to allow our bodies to be able to have a robotic capability. And they're being built right now, and they're actually quite not that expensive. I'm going to be visiting a couple of those companies over the course of our show that will allow us as humans to be able to work harder and more efficiently without damaging ourselves as badly. Like, I mean, you think of a laborer, a 40-year laborer veteran, I mean, his body's destroyed. But, with the use of exoskeletons as a laborer, you need to have that processing capability. You need human in construction. It's important. Construction is a volatile environment. It's chaos with organization. And if you want to call it organized chaos, that's what it is at a constant. And having one robot do one thing, let's call it, and I'm going to visit a couple of these. There's the robotic painter. There's a robotic drywall installation, robot. They exist. Are they going to start to self-perform better than humans? No, not yet. I don't think so. And maybe they might not ever. Plumbing still is going to have to be run by humans. Electrical is still going to have to be run by humans. We have tradesmen who are going to have to do their job. Now, can we make their job easier, more efficient, faster? Yeah, of course we can. So let's work on that. Yes. Let's keep those people employed. Let's keep those jobs going. Let's keep that work being performed. Just give better abilities for it to be done, faster, cheaper, and more efficiently. Yes. And I think we're going to have, that's why I was talking about that marrying of that symbiosis between technology in the future along with us. And that's important, because if you lose the human aspect and you completely focus just on technology and robotics, that's a loss.
Yes, it's not sustainable. And definitely, like, you know...
No, I think it would be. I disagree. I think it is sustainable. I just think it would be a loss. You know, it's a loss to our ability to perform. And I don't... you know, you look right now, there's tons of robots being made. They're in Japan, they're in China, they're, you know, in the US, Elon Musk even has his own robot. Like, but are those robots going to be effective? Probably, in certain instances. But are, like, for construction and the mass construction that's going to be required, like, to perform, there's not enough of them. There's humans. We have people. Just look at our economy. All of the immigrants that have just come over from the countries that we just brought into Canada, they don't want to sit at home. Yes. They don't want to sit in a hotel room and take money. They want to work. Now, there's the odd few. Look, we're human nature. There's going to be the odd people who try and scan the system, and they're out there. I think there's tons of them out there. But the majority of men and women that have come here don't want to sit in a hotel room collecting financial benefits. They want to work. They want to contribute. They want to be part of something. They didn't leave an environment to come to another environment just to sit and do nothing. They're here to work. They're here to perform. They're here to contribute. They're here to be part. We just have to give them the ability to do it, and that requires training. It requires dedication. It requires, you know, advancements in how we're going to move this forward, and it requires a willing and a want to be able to do it, and that requires exposure and knowledge. Those are all combinations of cause and effect, and we have an industry here, construction, which traditionally has been adapted by everybody for thousands and thousands of years. You can do this. Look at me, I came home as a diver. I was injured. I had no ability to do a lot of other things. You can't just come back and become a diver in Canada when you're injured and pick up and start doing it. I mean, back then it didn't happen. You know, it was a specialized field. I had nowhere to go. Construction, you know, welcomed me in the door, and I was able to thrive in it. And that should be available to everybody. That is, you know, from the beginning, you know, from apprentices to your continuation into an adult, and there's a job here for everyone, and there's a focus here for everyone.
Chris, I'm very happy. Like, you know, this podcast is going really well, and you were just nailing in very, very important points. One of the points that you mentioned, like with the York University, like, you know, course your university is offering in the technology of the construction site and development. Please tell our audiences about it.
Sure. So I've partnered with great companies and great people and great faculties to create a course that is dedicated to focusing on 3D printed and SIP, which is a structurally insulated panel or a modular wall system that will allow for a 6-story building to get constructed utilizing these pieces of material. We partnered with a company called Printera. They are the leading 3D printing company right now in Canada. They have partnered with York University and with University of Windsor. They have other partnerships that are also significant that have allowed us to be able to contribute to create a great course curriculum to actually train people to use this equipment, cobot printers, MaxiPrinters, and understand how they can get erected on an actual job site. We've collaborated with a great company called Build a Dream, which is located in Windsor, and they are a not-for-profit group focused on women in the workforce. And I think that's a really important piece of this, is that technology opens the doors to other contributors who want to look to take part in construction, not just traditionally, you know, big burly men. You know, you've got now that opens the door to intellectuals, to women, to other individuals who may not have been able to take part in construction, but because technology allows them to, because it's not as laborious as what that particular, I'm just using 3D printing again for an example, you know, you can now take part in construction, which is huge. And I think that's something that really needed to get out there, and that's why that course was created. And you know, what it does is it combines those two technologies, SIP and 3D printing. In the course, what we've done is we've partnered with York University and we've partnered with the Windsor University to create a great avenue to learn. It's actually at York campus. We have classrooms in York, and this course will be contributable towards an aspect of York University and one of their course curriculums. We haven't decided on where this is going to go exactly, but it's an 8-week intensive course that focuses on blueprint reading. It focuses on health and safety. It focuses on utilization of 3D printing technology and understanding it. It allows for the teaching of operators for 3D printing technology. It allows for the use of SIP panels and how those connection details for that SIP panel will be connected. I think it's an amazing course for people who are looking to upskill. So masons, concrete workers, form workers, even carpenters who are looking to upskill in their workforce, upskill their talents to stay on top of the curve to how construction will be performed. And this is going to change the construction industry. And might as well learn it now. And we're taking the first top 50 applicants who are looking to upskill. And this course is free. It's 100%. Yeah, it's 100% free. 100% free.
Amazing.
And Norseman sponsoring it with York University. We also have the Toronto Construction Association. Big shout out to them. They're actually coming on board to teach the blueprint reading and adaptability aspect of our course. So, Toronto Construction Association, amazing group. I can't wait to work with them. Our SIP panels are coming from Thermapan. Amazing companies, one of the originators of the structurally insulated panel. This technology has actually been around since the 80s.
Wow.
This company is a 40-year veteran in this product, and it's funny how it's only now that it's really going to potentially make a resurgency when it's something that's been around forever. And just so everybody understands what a structurally insulated panel is, it's a sandwich of polystyrene and 2 exterior pieces of product, either ply or OSB, and they're put together to create a wall system. And in that, you can put in your risers and different electrical, hydro, and gas components, which is fantastic technology. It's quick and versatile. And we're really excited. Actually, the course is going to start in August. And it's something that's, I think it's a really big deal because it's the only course like it in the world. There's nothing like it that exists right now.
That's amazing. It sounds so good that even I wanted to take this course on, because some of the things reading the drawings, plans, and the other things.
Yeah.
And as a consultant, I take a lot of education, mentoring, and trainings, read books, and I have to, so I can be able to advise different sector of the people. So the course starting in August, there's no cost, it's free. That's good.
Yeah, and really something else is really interesting and cool is that the government has come out with the Ontario Jobs Grant, and any employers that are looking to send their employees to this course, they're offering $10,000 to help with their carrying costs of that employee while he's going through this course. Now, it's an 8-week program, so that's quite intensive. But the Ontario government has actually put out this great grant that allows people to be able to go to this and help cover their wages while they're attending this course.
Very good.
So for those of you that are interested in that grant, it's on the city website. We're also going to have a contingency for that on our website as well at Norseman.
Very good.
And you can look to apply there.
That's great. That's amazing news. And is this in person or virtual?
It's in person.
In person.
Yeah, it's actually at campus. It's you got to be there every day. You can't learn this at home.
You got it.
Yeah.
Okay. I will definitely look forward to joining this course. That's great.
Cool. Yeah, thanks, man. I'm excited. Let's go. Get on board.
Okay. So, Kris, tell our audiences about LiveWell 6 stories building model that you're introducing.
Okay, so LiveWell is a concept that we have combined to represent the affordable housing industry that we're looking to really push into with our technology and with technologies that we're going to explore through the YouTube show. LiveWell is a concept where everybody has the ability to live well, and we're focusing on the mid-rise buildings, that sweet spot of the missing middle that it's being called. And it's in the affordable rental market. And there's a lot of companies out there, they're all pushing to build these types of buildings. And again, I'm not trying to compete with that. I'm trying to bring light of the technologies that are available to allow all builders across the globe potentially to be able to build a better product faster, cheaper, and more efficiently using the technology that's available. And I think that's what's really going to focus on how LiveWell really brands itself as a potential movement. I mean, even our course is called, LiveWell, brought to you by Norseman Construction and Printera and Build a Dream. And it is a mantra that we've developed as a group that will focus on building a very detailed structure that we're going to showcase on our show, that we're going to basically travel the world as an adventure to look at these different versatile technologies and how they can be applied in real life on an actual real building. And I think that's what you're going to see, in building eventually this building. So the first part of the show is going to be us traveling around. We're going to be meeting with different business owners and different product vendors, different technology entrepreneurs, and we're going to be analyzing them, and we're going to be looking at them, and we're going to be learning about them. As I said, I don't know all of these technologies that are out there. I'm going to explore them with our audience. I'm going to really focus on, what is out there? How can we bring it together? How can we combine these technologies and then use them actually on a real building and build with them? And I think that's something that's going to be really explored, in our first season. As I said earlier, we're going to travel to different countries around the globe. We're going to be experimenting. We're going to be looking. We're going to be learning. We're going to be, adventuring into this world of technology, and then taking all of that real life knowledge, and with our audience, we're going to bring that back, and then we're going to build a building with it. And we're going to take all of those top level technologies that we've learned about, that we can adapt and use, and we're going to apply them. And we're going to show what that cost is. We're going to show how that gets built. And through the course, you're going to see step by step, in the show, we're going to showcase, hopefully, if we can do this the right way, a 3D model of that 6-story building, that 50 units, and how those technologies are going to apply, and then analyze those efficiencies and really showcase, the value of what's being proposed, and then the cost of that, and then apply it to that building and how we're building that building and the cost of that building and what that building will eventually be. Then we'll build it. That's sort of like our forecast for season 2 is like, we will build that building. And we're going to go heavy in depth and work with those technology leaders and work with those thought leaders and those potential disruptors. And that will bring, hopefully, light not just to other builders in a competition perspective, but showcase like other builders and other developers, like how this can be done. And as a group, we can potentially adapt this new way of working and this new way of building and these new products that can potentially help. Some of them may not work. Some of them may not even be able to do what they're supposed to do. Right. And there's probably going to be huge problems along the way. But you know what? That's part of learning, and that's part of adventuring. And I think that's really inspiring to me as a Norse sort of branded Viking. I want to explore. I want to get into this. I want to cross oceans and see what's available and see what's out there. And I think that might be just something inherently in me, but that's what I want to see. And I feel like the show, which doesn't have a name yet, it's really going to focus on. We're 4 episodes deep into it as we progress, but this is going to be, I think, something that's going to really open everybody's eyes and really give a deep, exploration into what's available. And I don't know, I'm excited.
That's very good. That the YouTube show, you're planning to do. I'm going to recommend some names towards the end of this podcast. Cool. And let's see how it's going to go, because it needs to have the broad range. And we want to tell industry that we're not competing, we are collaborating. The government was in the same mode of collaboration mode. They're in the listening mode, and all level of governments are in line, and they understand that if they don't collaborate with the private sector, with the construction sector, investors, nothing is going to move. Mm-hmm. So we all need to work. Plus, we need a supply chain of the workforce too. So material we have, thankfully we are a vast country, we can be able to have the material supply, but is the labor supply shortages. And with the people who are going to upgrade their skill set, this program is not only good in the York University, but also your YouTube channel is going to be the beacon of light, you can say, for eye opener for all people to pay attention to, subscribe, learn, and get entertained. I was telling you in earlier podcasts, my son believes on the YouTube videos and comments on the YouTube videos, so he trusts me more when people say positive comments about the videos I'm going to show. So it is actually a very good thing to do. So let's talk about your YouTube channel a little bit. You saying that you wanted to do it as experimental program and exploring the world technologies which can be able to adapt in Canada. And we have a very harsh weather, 8 months of the year, our weather is very, very unpredictable and sometimes non-functional for the construction. But I also see that you went to the Kenya and the weather is totally opposite there. It's sunny every day, and in African countries, it's mostly sunny. So if you learn the technology over onto the African side of the continent, how it's going to be applied in Canada, because our weather conditions are different. Technology aspect, we get it, but how we can be able to balance it out, the weather.
I think that's part of the learning process, though, Khurram. I think that's part of the exploration. I mean, you're looking at how versatility of products can be adapted into different countries. I think that's going to be part of the exploration. We're going to be, we're traveling the globe. We're going to be going to countries like China. We're going to be going to countries like Japan. We're going to be going to places like Germany and France, Saudi Arabia. We're going to be going to Dubai. We're going to be going to, cities, in Europe, Prague, and down into the US, into places like California and LA, Miami. There's a lot of building, and there's a lot of adaptive technology that different people are trying to come up with to solve this solution. Now, what's the best one? Or can they collaborate? I think that's really what I want to try and find out is, everybody says, oh, this method's the best, this method's the best. Well, we've had billion-dollar funded companies that have collapsed that everybody said was going to change the world. And they're just not, because there are reasons why. What are those reasons? Everybody has their own theories. Financial ability to produce, manufacturing incapabilities. What are they talking about? Are they even real? And I think that's what I really want to find out. And from a builder that's been in this business since I was 13 years old. I think I have a unique approach, not just as a businessman, not just as a developer, not just as a builder, not just as an individual who's curious, but as an adventurer, as a thought provoker, and as a potential disruptor in a field that is globally changing daily based on AI and technology, and it's finally being adapted into, like you said, an industry that hasn't changed in 100 years, maybe 1,000 years. The reality is we're at a precipice where now change is being accepted, and I think that's important. And to delve into that and really look and meet with these thought leaders and these entrepreneurs and these innovators and these adaptable products that are being potentially changed to change the world. I want to be part of that. I want to learn about it. And then I want to take that and I want to apply it to a real building. I have the ability to do it. I have the experience and I have the team to do it. So why not?
Kris, as the sounds of it is going to be more than YouTube channel. It's going to be a movement. And the movement needs to be heard by masses, beyond the YouTube channel. So certainly our company DigiPix is very good in creating brands and exploring them to the pinnacle of success and all that online. And we certainly can be able to bring a tremendous value, making this movement move forward and bringing all over the collaboration from all over the world with the different people collaborating on the platform and getting the data and hear it and compile it using the AI and then give the solution, and that solution can be able to compose in the YouTube episode of that, and then take reaction out of that and run the survey online again, and then collect it and then compile the data again. So we going to help you tremendously, getting the feedback, because feedback is very important, what people are working. So not only you're going to work on a functioning model, have an R&D on it, but take the takeaways from it, learn from the mistakes, publish it, and these are the mistakes you found on Canada due to a weather, cold weather situation, and how it compared to the hot weather situation in the Middle East and Africa.
I don't know if I'm going to be able to figure that out, to be honest with you. Like that's something that, you know, you're going to have to look at the technology that's available and what that is, and then we can analyze it. But the reality is, just, you know, this building's getting built in Canada. I'm not going to Africa to build this building. Not now, not right now, at least. I mean, that's not saying that, you know, the trip that I had isn't going to produce fruit. That we're going to be bringing different, you know, technologies there. But we're looking at what's available in Canada, what can be built here, and what, more importantly, in Etobicoke. I mean, that's you know, and so that building that gets built here in Canada, we're going to be looking at technologies that are going to work, like you said, in versatile weather pattern systems and versatile temperatures, because that building's getting built here, right? And so for you know, I'm not saying that there won't be future episodes where we're going to be looking at different countries. This can potentially go around the world. I mean, who knows? The future holds, you know, no bounds on where we can go with this. I think right now we're off to a really good start in, you know, where we're at. We're at a really good, you know, I'm going to use a surfing sort of tone to this. We're at the top of the wave, and, you know, we're about to drop down. And I think, you know, the ride is ahead of us. And as long as we can drop down properly without eating the wave, then we're going to be on top of it as a you know, as one entity in a multitude of a sea of potential forward momentum into technology in the construction workforce.
Wonderful, nice to
and
say.
the industry.
Nicely said, wonderfully said, sir. And I wish you all the best.
Cool. All right, thanks. Appreciate that.
Kris, I think it's been a more exciting show and the podcast for me. Like, you know, I've been doing it for a couple of years. So many things we talk about it. I think each topic of those podcast pointers that you created deserve an episode of discussion itself, because they're big. And I understand that. And you said, like, you know, I fried your brain, and you have a lot to offer. So what we need to, like, you know, do it is encompasses, like, you know, to the YouTube channel that you're going to make. Let's discuss, like, you know, in a lighter mode on a closing statement. I want to say that you're doing a fabulous job, and not only the government but private sector investors, they all need to, like, hear you. They need to, like, you know, take you seriously and, like, you know, believe in you, because, like, you know, people like you and organizations, collaborators like yourself, and you said it right. Like, you know, I'm not a leader. Leaders never call themselves leader. Publics do. So it's a public honor that, like, you know, they give it to the individuals, and you're doing a fantastic job. So I must give you the credit. Thank you very much for doing a wonderful job. But now, through the YouTube channel voice to the world, let's work on that one, and let's have some name suggestion. So there was something that you were planning to do last year, Build Forward Canada. That's a good name that you can continue. But the way I see it, to be honest with you, yes, you wanted to build the houses in Canada, but this movement, I'm going to call it a movement of change of affordable housing, is going to go global. Many governments across the globe are looking for this crisis, like homelessness crisis and all that. The building we are in, they're, like, you know, homeless people, like, you know, behind the building, you just saw it. And it is something that government want to, like, you know, resolve, but there's a lot of component that I'm talking to the government sector too. Is permits issued quite openly and all that. Like, since town of Ajax doesn't have a whole lot of land, they're going with the intensification model, where whatever the land is available, like, you know, just demolish it, like, you know, the old plazas, construct the, like, you know, building. But this has a limit too, like, you know, is increase the congestion in the cities. So we need to open the land, we need to open the mind, we need to open the pockets of the investors, and, like, you know, work collaboratively. So what name would you think, like, you know, for this podcast? Because
man, you're putting me on the spot. I don't know. This is something that's, you know, it's been toyed around with now. We're, as I said, we're about we're almost 4 episodes in, and, you know, Construction 2.0 has come up. Another funny one was Pots on Land. There was, like, I think there was a couple of other potentials. One of them was, you know, Norseman Innovates, but I think it's really, I think it's got to be it's got to be, like you said, it's, you know, even Build Forward Canada is just Canada. I think it has to be something that's, you know, innovative for the world. But I don't know, maybe there's better marketing people than me to come up with something, that's gonna really intrigue what our premise is and how this is gonna, explore what we're gonna do. Maybe it's explore innovation. Maybe it's a Norseman's tour into technology. I don't know. I'm honestly, I have no idea, which is why we don't have a name yet. So
no, I will think of some names as
right.
we do the marketing and all that, and I will think of it over the weekend and then next week, and I'll recommend make some recommendations. We haven't talked about your wife. She's a wonderful, source of inspiration, motivation, sort of mentor, support. I was talking to, one of your staff, and I said to them, she's a Wonder Woman.
Well, the fact that I'm still 16 years married is a pretty good deal.
I saved your marriage back in 2015 and 16. You told me before was saving my business for him, you got to do something because everybody was calling me and it was bugging me. So just talk about your wife Becky and how she helped you out in the course of business.
I think she's the stable arm of my environment. Having a really good wife and a really good spouse who supports you, who has a really strong family network. They are there for all of us. It really allows you to as myself focus on whatever the major entity that I'm focusing on is at hand. So for years it was my company, Norseman Construction. Whatever development that I was involved in at the time, or whatever focus that really drove where I went, knowing that side of my life was looked after by somebody competent, somebody that I love, somebody that looks after me and loves me. I think that's a big deal, and I think you see a lot of advertisement. Behind every strong man is a strong woman. That's legitimate. It can be man or woman. It could be whoever's beside you, who has your back. That's going to allow you to drive 120% rather than just 90 or even 80. It gives you that extra momentum. I've got 3 beautiful kids, amazing, and they're looked after, and I know that they're going to be successful. I mean, my oldest son is a provincial level runner. He's competed in many races. He's dominating in his world. My middle kid is reading. He's 4 years old. He's reading at a grade 1 level. All thanks to my wife. My youngest, who has a little bit of he's got a cleft palate, and overcoming that. She's dealt with that. 6 months in the hospital he spent. He's got no palate, may not ever speak. But her ability to adapt to that and be on top of that, it's a strength. It's and that strength compiles into me. Now I may not get dinner every night. There's definitely in the give take. I'm ending up buying some of the dinners that we have most of the night. But you know what? We've got a good trade off of work. I focus on what I'm doing and making sure that we're looked after, and she focuses on us and making sure we're all looked after. So that's a great collaboration, and I think that allows anybody to be able to become successful in what they do.
Wonderfully, nicely. I always appreciate when the men accept the fact of the hard work of their wives and appreciate them. And certainly behind every man's success there's a woman, men too, but woman, because as a wife, as mothers, your mother played a good role raising you, and she did a good job raising you and your brother Kevin. And your father is a very good father too, and he's a great lawyer in Toronto. And I would love to take his advice. I've been bugging you, just let me talk to him, be my advisor only. But you're a good family, and you're setting up a good example as a businessman, as a leader now, as a mentor, and as a businessman, as a consultant. So you're wearing a lot of hats, and it's not easy. And we need to support men like you. And so wonderful, good job. Do you have anything more to add in this podcast, and we want to tell audiences some call to action?
I think if I was to say one thing at the end of this today, it would be about the average guy who's in our construction industry. Hold strong. if you have the ability to focus and stay the best at what you do, whatever that is, if you're a drywaller, be the best drywaller there is. If you're a deficiency expert, be the best deficiency expert. If you're a framer, be the best framer. Look for the components that are coming down the line and become the top at what you do, and you will always be successful in this industry. Because this industry, it thrives on people who are the best, and there's a ton of people that aren't, and they milk that. But if you're the one who gives 100%, and whatever it is that you do, you stay focused on, and you give that gut and that power and that resource that you have that is in you 100%, you will always be successful in this business. Wow. And to keep moving in that direction. And the future is absolutely boundless with the amount of technology and the amount of innovation that is coming towards this industry. Every level of individual who wants to get into this or is in it has the capability of changing their direction and upskilling. As long as you give 100%, success is boundless.
Truly, truly words of a visionary person, and I truly respect that. And anybody who want to be who they are, if they work hard, stay focused and dedicated and honest, the sky's the limit in Canada. North America offers so much opportunity, and Canada has a great system of healthcare and all that. Just utilize that and connect with the right people and grow with limitless possibilities. Cool. So thank you, Kris, for coming on my podcast. I just want to wrap up. How people can be able to reach out to you? What's the best way of contacting you?
So we're going to have the YouTube show obviously up and running shortly. That will go live. We're looking at sort of the end of August. Norseman Construction is our main company for renovations in Toronto. Fantastic company, great group of guys, great business sense, and prices are amazing. To get a hold of me personally, I have a number of different ways obviously through our company and through the agents putting the YouTube show together. From a global perspective for technology, I'm working with a company called X Capital Global, who's looking at expanding our horizons across the globe in different levels of technology. And obviously, I think that's the best way to get a hold of me personally.
That's good. And of course, your website has all the information, norsemanconstruction.ca.
Yeah.
And people can be able to go there and learn many things about you and your business.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Thank you, Kris, for coming on my podcast. And it was good, to learn. And I learned so much. To be honest with you, I never, imagined that I could be able to learn so many things in a single podcast. But you are eye-opener.
Thanks,
wonderful,
buddy.
wonderful. Thank you.
Good to see you again, buddy.
Thank you.
Man. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. So, audiences, you learned so many things about the construction. Thank you very much for joining. If you want to join the podcast, please contact us. Our number is 289-275-2147, and the email is contact@digipixinc.com. If you want to book this venue, it is the Work Hub in Ajax, and I'm thankful to the Work Hub management for providing this room for the podcast recording. Thank you so much. Look forward to see you in the next podcast. Thank you very much.